Hey, welcome to How to in a Few. Today we're going to take a look at how to change a stator. It's a component of an outboard motor that's responsible for charging your batteries and also for the charging and timing of the spark plug sparks. Now the symptoms that we're having is that it idles really well, runs pretty good, but once we're out on the water and trying to actually apply horsepower, only about half the engine is running, or half of the banks of spark plugs are hitting. So it's a significant power drop and we're unable to actually go. So not a good thing. Next I'm going to show you the actual part as we ordered it, and then I'm going to show you there is a correct way to troubleshoot, and if I can remember, I'm going to put the link to a wonderful video that this guy has that checks the entire ignition system, including the power packs and coils, etc. Call me lazy, but I'm just going to change the stator. But the reason why I'm doing it, or why I think it's the problem, is that these stators, they come from the factory kind of encapsulated in plastic and filled with a gooey material to keep them cool, and eventually they break down and they start to leak that gooey material down onto the timer base, and it interferes with the functioning not only of the coil but also the timer base that's underneath the coil. So we're gonna, hopefully we don't have to change the timer base. We'll take a look at that and clean it up a little bit if it's gummed up. But I'm going to show you the new part, and then I'm going to show you where I see some of that goo leaking out and why I suspect that this is the problem we're having. So let's check that out. Alright, here's our new stator assembly. It comes with instructions, mainly instructions on how to troubleshoot. Alright. That's interesting. Not sure. Well, we'll see. We'll see what goes on there. Some connectors. Now these new stators come without the plastic and the oil in an effort to cool. And you see that's what it looks like there. A couple of plugs, a couple of leads. That's our new one. I'm going to go into handheld mode. And I'm not sure that we'll be able to see it, but this is the underneath where this coil is, and you can, I think you can see some of the oily drip there. And then if we look over here in the front, it's a little more apparent in the front. You can see that gooey looking stuff. So hopefully the diagnosis is correct and it'll be the stator. Using this socket. Now, one thing that's changed since I came back, I have a chain. You notice, and just, you can't see it here, but I just put a starter bolt through it so that the chain is locked against the block. That's going to provide us with a way to keep the flywheel from spinning. Conveniently, there's some holes in here, and we'll stick a screwdriver in there. Just watch what we're on so we're not hitting anything underneath. And then I want to be careful I don't damage any of these teeth right here. Alright, so not much to that. That was actually a little bit looser than what I thought it would be. There's our nut, aircraft style, so we probably should have gotten a new one. No washer. We'll leave this in place for when we tighten. When we tighten it back up. Alright. Next step is to use a puller. Now, Johnson has a different bolt pattern than what most pullers will come with. So you need to make sure that you have the right threaded bolts, or you'll do damage to your flywheel. So we went ahead and went and bought some. These are 5/16. And these are hardened grade 8 bolts. The washers aren't. That's the weak link. This one's giving me problems, so that's probably going to be my highest one. So I'm going to back these out just a little. So ideally, as you tighten up this puller, you're going to want it to mate against these bolts evenly. Alright, this could make a loud noise depending on how long it's been since it's been taken off. We're going to go ahead and lock our flywheel back in place. Woo! Alright, that's a kind of a scary process anytime that it happens, but that is exactly what's supposed to happen. If everything goes well, we should be able to lift off our flywheel. Now notice, looking at it a little bit closer, now we can see it. We can definitely see all kinds of slime here. Indication of leakage. And but the coil is not the original coil. I see that now because it is exposed wiring too. But definitely we see some issues there. So we'll remove that. Next, we have to trace down all our wires. I'm also going to inspect the underside of the flywheel for any magnet damage. Alright, here's our flywheel. Oh man, well that's it right there. So, clearly a problem we hadn't anticipated. The inside magnet still looks good, but we definitely have dislodged magnets in 2 places and 1 cracked and damaged. Good news is we found the problem. Bad news is, what the heck do I do about it now? Alright, so I've recouped myself a little bit, but I'm still pretty distraught. So some of the magnets are okay, they just came unglued, at least 3 unglued. 1 has actually been destroyed. So I did source one, actually fairly close, on eBay, a reconditioned ones that will have the magnets inspected and re-epoxied, because I have some rust here. I don't like the looks of that. I could glue them back on myself. Well, we'll keep this as a spare, because the inner, this is the one that you cannot replace if this cracks. So we'll keep this as a spare, but we have one coming. Then if we switch back to the stator, which may or may not have been bad before the magnet issue, if we take a look there, we can see that these have been contacted, presumably by pieces of the magnet, which there's nothing ever supposed to be touching this. The magnets just come in very close proximity to generate a magnetic field through these coils, thereby charging the battery and charging the coils to fire the spark plugs. We see evidence here of leakage due to overheating and having a meltdown, so we're going to go ahead and I know I need to change it, so I'm going to go ahead and change the stator, and then also clean up and make sure that the timing base moves freely. Alright, next we're going to locate where our plugs are. Plugs being the plugs for the stator. Looks like they're going into the control power pack. Of course. The other big one is back here. Guess we'll try to get this one apart. No, we did lose that nut, huh? And we lost this one too. Alright, looks like we're not getting this out without some creative tactics. Alright, stator removed. Alright, timer base should lift away too. We're presuming nothing's wrong with that, other than it might need a little cleaning. Cleaning, re-greasing, maybe a little bit on the inside, and then lubricating and reinstall. Alright, let's take a look at where we are now. Our new stator, ready to go. We can go ahead and put that up on the boat. Fortunately, I got some paint in where I didn't want it to go. Or did we just mess that all up, huh? These were very tight. Now we need to be sure that our timing base is still moving freely. I moved it the wrong way. So that's going to be a yes. Before I forget how the timing base gets plugged in, I'm going to go ahead and take care of that right now. Alright, see if we can't clean up a little bit of the mess we made. Alright, next piece is the stator. I'm hoping that that's the way that it was on there. I did not snap a picture, and I'd hate to have to go back through all this video to try to find it. I am fairly certain that's how it went. This wire channeled all the way along on this side, presumably underneath the stator wire. Through the middle, try to zip tie those up. Alright, let's recap where we are. We've cleaned up our timing base, still moves freely. Reattached that. We're now going to reattach the stator. We have all the wiring hooked up. We hooked up the advanced bar on this side for the timing. All the wire seems right. So now we'll just crank down our stator. Anytime I'm dealing with something that's in a circle, I like to crisscross my tightening pattern so nothing gets warped. Now there is a torque setting for this. You should probably look that up. Alright, believe it or not, we are waiting on a flywheel. Alright, we're back. You can call this day 2, part 6 of this Stator video. I'm trying to recall it myself, but from what I remember, we took the flywheel off, and then upon inspecting that flywheel, found some pretty extensive damage on the underside where the magnets are. And we do have our remanufactured one now, and we can see all these magnets are nicely placed. It's absolutely beautiful. Can't wait to put this on. I'm stoked, and I don't even live in California. Alright, so let's take this onto the boat and get everything ready. I'm going to have to grab a torque wrench because the nut on here has to be torqued down to 130, 140 foot-pounds. And then, I don't want to say I guarantee, but it should crank right up. So, let's see what happens. So, if we take a quick look at the two flywheels, this one has the loose magnets, and you can see some corrosion around the rim. This has all been either cleaned, or this is a very good condition flywheel that's been remanufactured. One thing I was curious about was how important it was to have the magnets in the same place. So I'm lining up the keyways, and I see they're slightly off by about half an inch or so. So it's my hope that that is not going to substantially affect the timing. It's my understanding that this outer ring of magnets is responsible for producing electricity, both for charging the battery and for the coils that run the engine, and that the timing magnet signals are actually incorporated into the base here where there's another magnet. Alright, wish it wasn't painted on the inside, but we're going to roll with it. Alright, decided I'm going to apply a little white lithium grease in here just to kind of slick that a little bit. Now I'm going to focus on the reinstall, and the most important thing is to make sure this keyway is in the right position and that we line this up Alright, and I'm going to assume that we just did. Just noticed something I left off from a previous video. Alright. What I'm hoping here by hand tightening this is that this is going to draw the flywheel the rest of the way down, because it wasn't quite flush. And I believe we are there now. If you recall, we have a chain already attached that we're going to utilize to hold our flywheel in place while we tighten it. With a little more oomph. Now this is a clicker torque wrench. Let me make sure I'm recording. Alright. And we're going to set that to I think I read it was 130, 140. Which we are right about there. what you might hear is that this wrench will actually click when it reaches the appropriate tightness. It's one of the few times you'll see me actually using a torque wrench. Alright, did you hear that click? That is our signal. And we'll try it again. Alright. Alright, now we'll remove that chain. Alright, unplugging our battery charger. Alright, water's running. Fuel bulb is primed. Moment of truth. Might need to turn on the battery. Alright. Now it's the actual moment of truth. Needless to say, I'm not happy. Alright, so I can't really say that this video turned out exactly as I planned. Decided I'm going to go ahead and close the video just the same. Where we just left off was you saw me reattaching the flywheel and then attempting to start the engine, and it would not start. That proceeded a little bit longer. I was pretty upset about it. So I ended up, without the camera on, tracking down the and determining, believe it or not, that the wires inserted into one of the plugs were reversed. One of the plugs from the new Stator. So after swapping those, I originally only saw the first side that was wrong, and then swapping the second set, the engine did start, and I adjusted the carburetors and got to where it was idling. But upon trying to apply more throttle to it, the engine was shaking and presumably missing, which is kind of leading me to the thought that the timer base is bad. So that's where we kind of stand with that. Currently, the engine is running. Now, let's back up for a minute. For those of you saying, you know, I mean, I am an amateur. I never claim to be a professional. But if we retrace this, the flywheel, obviously bad. Magnets loose, cracked, and damaged. So yeah, the fact that we replaced that was a necessity. There was no way to run with that. The Stator leaking oil or tar was dripping onto the timer base, and obviously visually bad just by looking at the surfaces around the sides of the coils were scarred up from the pieces of magnet that had come into physical contact with it. So we know that part also, while questionably it might still have worked had we tested it, but it was damaged, and I wouldn't want to run with a part that is compromised. So that also has been replaced. The part that I didn't want to replace unnecessarily was the timer base, and so I started this whole thing without actually troubleshooting each component, because I didn't have the tools to do that. I did have a meter, which I'll show you my meter here. that would allow me to check the ohms. What it doesn't allow me to do is check the voltages that come out of the ignition system. These voltages on outboards are in AC current, and AC alternates and also produces variable voltage readings as triggers. So long story short, when these devices trigger, they put out a high voltage signal for a very short amount of time to trigger the control module to fire on that cylinder. This meter is not quick enough to capture that high voltage trigger. So you need a special, a special meter or an attachment, which I've priced them before and they can run around $100. And I just didn't want to spend $100 to get an adapter to that would capture that pulse, that high voltage pulse, if I didn't have to. So now that we're at the timer base, and I'm pretty sure the timer base is bad, but I also found a digital voltage adapter online, and let's separate my leads. And this is what that looks like, along with, I mean, this was a really cool kit. It's supposed to fit right into your meter, but it doesn't fit into mine, so I'll have to bridge these contacts to the meter with my other probes. And it came with alligator clips so that I can attach them to the different points inside the plugs to get an accurate reading. And this will freeze that highest voltage. Once it determines that highest voltage, it maintains that. And it's a kind of a weird way, and I don't understand it completely, but switching the meter to DC, this is going to check AC and then apparently use DC to maintain that voltage or something like that, so that you can see what the peak voltage is. Haven't tried it yet, should be interesting. And that's what we're going to do in the next video. We're going to go ahead, not only check the timer base, but also check the brand new stator. Since the wires were backwards and we attempted to start it, who knows what damage that may have done. So we'll check the stator, which is the easier of the two, and then we'll check the timing base. And I gotta tell you, I'm praying that the timing base shows up bad so that we can swap it out and get this boat back on the water where it's supposed to be. So that's where we are. Yeah, I don't like doing two-part videos, but I somehow feel like this needs to be two parts. If your problem was just swapping out a leaky stator or broken magnets on a flywheel, then you'd be done at this point. You can give me the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and I would thank you for watching it. If, on the other hand, it's the timing base that's giving you problems, then the next video is going to show you how to check both the stator and the timing base. Actually, it's quite a process, and I went ahead and made my own little worksheet where I can fill in the numbers of each of the readings, so that not only will I be able to determine what's bad, but I'll have a record too to kind of keep track of everything I did in this process. I may or may not share that in a link under that video, so that might be useful too. Obviously, you got to use it at your own risk, just like all these videos. If you're in the same boat as me and you need now to go on to the timer base, then that's what we're going to do in the next video. Thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.